Welcome back to another improv tip of the month. I'm Bradley Sowash. What goes on when you're improvising in minor keys? All right, let's get down to it. So here's the questions we're going to consider. Improvising in minor keys. The main question I want to hit is, how do you choose what notes to use when you're improvising or composing in minor keys? I'm also going to touch on what the heck do we mean when we say conventional minor key harmony, and how could that be different from other harmony? And then, how many common minor scales are there anyway? And then, because I know some of you are teachers and some of you are self-learners, I want to talk about what is the best order to learn minor scales in. And when I say scale, I'm really thinking not so much as a technical exercise as a collection of notes that are at your disposal when you're improvising or composing. So let's just start with the main question. How does one choose which notes to choose when improvising or composing in minor keys? The short answer is look at the chords. Okay, but that's not enough. Let's figure out what I mean by that. So we're going to look at the chords and think that through. So to get at the chords, let's think for a minute about the difference between older, or let's call it very old or traditional minor key harmony, and what we now call conventional minor key harmony. So if we look at, and this is a can of worms, so don't send me tons of questions about what are modes and all that. So, but the oldest scales, way back to the Greeks, were based on 7 modes, and sometimes they're referred to as the church modes because they're a big part of 15th century European. But if you look at some of the older tunes, they have all the harmony which would likely fit this tune is solidly in the key signature. That means the natural minor scale. So just a really brief look at that. If we're in C major key, the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. And if we're in the same key signature but in a minor environment, we're going to start on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And we have a collection of notes that are identical to the first collection, and yet because they start at a different place, it has a different tonality. So the A natural minor scale is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And that's a very old way of thinking about harmony. It's still very useful, but if we take each of those notes and just play stacked thirds on each, so A, C, E, and then I move that up to the B note, the second in the scale, B, D, F. I'm not even naming these. I'm not worrying about them. C, E, G, D, F, A, just basing off the scale, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E. I have this collection on the piano of white key triads. Just taking that shape and move it around. In fact, you could have if you broke your wrist, you could just ask your doctor to form your fingers into that shape, and you'd be able to play in this key by just moving around your hand, because it doesn't involve any fingering. So if we think about those 7 chords, which are built on each scale degree, there are older tunes that seem to lend themselves to a harmonization that are all on just those chords, the ones that are in the key, and a fancy word for that is diatonic. So in my current Feel the Spirit live online jazz piano class, we're working on spirituals, and one of them is Wade in the Water. And I'm going to demonstrate this in A minor because it's easy to think in A minor. Wade in the Water. So 100% of those notes are on white keys. They are in the key signature. So since it's a vocal song, it doesn't originally have any harmony. But if we think about harmonizing that, one way to do it would be to stick to the key signature, only using white keys. So you might play A minor, And then you might play E minor, the 5th chord. Oops. Especially right here in E minor is a nice chord because the melody is a G. Here's a G note, right? So here's that G. You can hear how it wouldn't be in the character of this tune to adjust that note as it happens in other tunes. God's gonna trouble, though. It's kind of brings it into almost a classical harmonization. We want to hear that G, that G against the 5 chord. So for those of you who know something about music theory, the older minor tunes sometimes have a normal minor 5 chord. In other words, in the key of A minor, you have an E minor chord, and that's just saying all white keys. So another example of this, just to drive it home here, is All the Pretty Horses, right? You know, this old folk song. A lot of folk songs use this all white key or all in the key minor tonality. So that was an A minor to a D minor. And then here's E minor, the 5th chord of the scale. It's minor. I'll just do that again. A minor. And then I'll do D minor, E minor, the 5th chord in the scale. And it goes on from there. But then back to that E minor. Now you could get around that and harmonize with other ways. I'm just saying that's a common way to get at it. Okay, so that's some of the older tunes use that. But you can hear that over the years, people wanted to add more tension to that 5th chord, that 5 chord, to give it more of a tendency to be what we call functional harmony or a feeling of resolution. They wanted to push into a resolution. So we can demonstrate that readily with the Greensleeves tune, which is kind of a crossover piece between folky, Aeolian modal approach and a classical approach. So let's listen to this in A minor. A minor is the chord, G is next, going right down, and then F. Now you can almost imagine a tapestry seamstress locked in her tower playing this on a simple, clavichord, and she might play this. So I played E minor. Let's listen to that again. So if you're going to a Renaissance fair this in October or whatever, as they often occur, that would be a way to quickly sound Renaissance-y because it's an older way to harmonize it. But we're more used to this way. A minor, G chord, F, and then E that's adjusted out of the key to have that G sharp in it to be a major 5. So that's what we mean by conventional minor key harmony. A lot of tunes for pretty much like lots of years, like hundreds, have favored that adjustment on the 5 chord to give it a little bit more tension. Again, let's compare an E minor going to A minor. E minor resolving to A minor. We feel a slight amount of tension and then a release. But now let's make that an E major, adjusting away from the key signature with that special G sharp note. We hear its restlessness wanting to resolve. And if we add a 7th to that, I'll play a D with the chord without breaking that down. It gives it even more push. It has to go somewhere. It's an alive feeling. I like to say 5 is alive and 1 is done. It's a way to hear those chords. So because that has that special, let's call it a rogue note in it, the 5 chord requires a consideration about what notes you will play when the 5 chord is occurring. And we'll just look at that in a minute here. So let's look at a couple of tunes that have long, conventional minor key harmony 5 chords in them that go for a while. And so one of those that everybody would know, even though it is September when I'm recording this, it is a Christmas tune. And it's the Ukrainian Christmas carol or folk carol. So that's all A minor, just with a moving bass line. A minor over A minor over G, A minor over F. Yes, you could argue that's a new chord, but I'm not going to do that because it's really a bass line. Let's see. Here's a 4-chord D minor. And sometimes that repeats depending on your version. But here, there's that long 5 chord, that long E chord or E7. So we have this massive space with the rogue chord in it, the one that is not in the key. How do we deal with that? We got to play a scale with a G sharp in it because it's in the major 5 chord. And what scale should that be is a matter of taste. So we could use a harmonic minor scale. And isn't that interestingly named harmonic minor because it is a scale, hear this, one of my main points, that is created to adapt to that special major 5 chord. It's a harmony. It's a scale that adjusts to a particular harmony. And so I'm going to play the A natural minor scale. Let's think of it that way. I'm going to start on E. We can hear something's wrong with that. I'm playing all the white keys, but there's that G sharp in the chord, so I've got to play that in my scale as well. So without necessarily overthinking all the intervals or anything, just change all my G naturals to G sharps. And I'm playing the notes E, F, G sharp, A, B, C, D. So we have an adjustment in the scale, and that's one way just to think of it without knowing all the theory. If it's in the chord, then put it in the scale. Put it in your playing. If you see notes in a chord not in the key, they're probably going to sound great. They're not probably, they're going to sound great in your melodic playing over that, whether you're composing or improvising. Now, you could think about this with the melodic minor as well. I'll just touch on that. Instead of E, F natural, you might like the sound of E, F sharp. And since that kind of, in a way, sweetens the melody, that's called the melodic minor scale. Here's the point. You want to use an adjusted scale for 5 chords in a minor key. All the rest of the time, as long as the chords are in the key, you can use the natural minor scale. You need to think about 2 scales. Of course, there are other scales that fit the minor key, such as Dorian, and there are other 5-chord scales. You might have heard of the diminished scale or the octatonic scale or an altered scale. All these are variations, but they have that special note that is in that special chord of the major 5 chord. Let's look at another one. Let's do this. Everybody knows this easy to play Chopin waltz. And so just touch it down. It's A minor, D minor, G. So 100% of these chords are in the key. A minor, D minor, G. And then that all repeats. But then he does, like Carol the Bells, an extended passage on the 5 chord, a major 5 chord, E7. It goes like this. So he's mixing A minor and E, A minor and E. So we have that whole back and forth, E, A minor, E, A minor. So we have to adjust the scale, and it's just what he does. He plays a melodic minor scale. And that's natural minor. And then back to melodic minor. This time, actually, it's interesting. He uses harmonic. And then proving that you can go back and forth pretty readily between harmonic and melodic. But in both cases, he sets the hand with the thumb on the 5th scale degree. Here's the big takeaway. Here's my big teaching point. We teach the harmonic minor scale as A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp, A. But it's played against that 5 chord. So it is good for the brain to think about this scale as if it is a E-based scale. Yes, we're in A minor, but we're going to play the A minor, A harmonic minor scale with my thumb on E. And my pinky on E on the top. If you just get your hand set that way, and that's my big tip, when you see the 5 chord, lay your thumb on the 5th scale degree or your pinky on the 5th scale degree, and that gives you 5 finger packages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, E, F, G sharp, A, B, or with my pinky down, E, D, C, B, A. In both cases, we have just a nice little hand figure that's going to work on that 5 chord. Can you start on some other note? Yes. Are musical rules meant to be broken? Yes. But we're going to just think about the harmonic minor scale as starting on the 5th degree. In fact, I recommend you practice it that way. As something that is E-ish in the key of A minor. Similarly with the melodic. And whether you choose to make it, have the accidentals on the way down is a matter of taste. Let's just look at a couple more of these, and then I'll answer some more questions. Right now, we're really looking at 2 questions. What does conventional minor key harmony mean, which we've answered, and how do you choose what notes to improvise? So I just want to look at this. Let's look at the D minor invention most of us know. Etc. So a lot of people would say, well, that is a whole piece based on the whole beginning anyway, on the D harmonic minor scale. But if we take a closer look, Bach is implying here D minor, A, D minor, A. So we have a D natural minor scale, and then an A harmonic minor scale. In other words, there's an implied adjusted 5 chord or a conventional minor key harmony in that. So if we're going to improvise in a Bachish way, we're going to need to do the same thing. Now let's just do D minor and A. Probably I shouldn't be waltzing in the left hand, so let's see if we can do this in more of a Baroque style. So I'm mixing natural minor and A or D harmonic minor by thinking about it as an A scale. And I get that sound pretty readily. Here, for Elise, A minor, E. So let's just say if Beethoven did not use conventional minor key harmony, it would sound like this. Listen right here. So that would be a totally different character, right? You know, but that G sharp makes it more classical, more of what we're used to. So if we're going to improvise on Für Elise, we're going to use the harmonic minor scale on the E chord. This is the point I keep driving home and home and home and home. It's interesting, just to show you that not all classical music deals with that. There is look at Rondo alla Turca, or the Turkish March. He uses an E minor. It's very interesting. Listen, here we are in A minor chord. And then Mozart uses an E minor, which is not so conventional for his time. A minor. E minor. Not. So it could have been that. It doesn't sound bad. He made an interesting choice to bend that expectation. Let's look at a couple quick jazz tunes that hit this. Fly Me to the Moon. A minor, D minor with 7s. G, C. And then F, B half diminished 7, and here it is. Now, it's an adjusted chord. It's E7. And what does the scale do right in the melody? A harmonic minor, but it's based in the environment of an E chord. You could write a whole piece in A harmonic minor, but I'm just saying it's not common. It's more common to just see it on the 5 chord. Let's look at a common Latin figure. Here is an A minor 7, the 1 chord, going to the 2 chord, B half diminished 7, to the 5 chord, E. So the chords are A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished 7, and E7. So you hear this figure a lot. For example, Black Orpheus. So that figure, the key notes in that is a G in the right hand against an A minor chord or an A minor 7. It's a little F sharp. And then we have A on which is the 7 of the B minor 7 flat 5 chord. And then a G sharp. That's what I was really driving at here. There's that E chord, right? So if we're going to improvise over that figure, you're going to use natural minor, except for that chord. I'm going to use harmonic minor or melodic minor right there. And one more quick example, let's see if I can do this in A minor, is Autumn Leaves. Starts on a D minor chord, even though it's in the key of A minor, and it goes around the circle. Here's the chords in this key: D minor, G, C, F, B, take away the flat, E, A. It moves around kind of a circle here. So Autumn Leaves is a circular or a cycle type pattern. D minor, G, C, F, B half diminished 7, and here we are. This is the E7. What does the composer do? E, F sharp, G sharp, C, a melodic minor. Could he have done this? Yeah, but it smoothed the melody in the opinion of the composer to make that adjustment. So if we're going to improvise over that, white key, white key, white key, white key, white key, melodic minor, F sharps and G sharps, white key. So C, F, B. Now I can't do my glisses anymore because I have to get those white keys, that G sharp in there. So there's the takeaway. If you're improvising in a jazz or a classical style with conventional minor key harmony, hit that G sharp. Find the scale that has the rogue note or the borrowed note in the chord. Okay, so let's just answer a few of the other questions here. How many common minor scales are there anyway? Well, there's lots of them. And some of the most common ones are minor pentatonic, which I'm not going to break that down right now. Natural minor, which we've hit hard. Dorian is used a lot. Of all the modes, that's probably one of the most popular. And then in the 5-chord realm, because remember we have to think about 2 of them, the main ones we talked about today was harmonic minor, starting on an E in A minor, melodic minor, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp. And then there's some more jazzy ones. One of the ones that's nice is a diminished scale. Let's see. Or an altered scale. I'm not going to break those down right now. So but I'll go ahead and demonstrate them. You get cool licks with the altered scale, such as this kind of almost cliche, but in a good way. If you want, I better show you those notes. The notes are G, D, C, G sharp, G, F, E, against an E chord. One more time, G, D, C, G sharp, G, F, E. Sometimes called the cry me a liver lick. Cry me a liver. Oh, my liver is crying. Cry me a river lick. The point is, I just want to touch on those. If you want a live stream on more advanced minor key scales, then put that in your comments, and I'll think about that. So in what order should minor keys be taught or learned? The order is this. Learn the major keys first for the common keys. Say if you play piano, that would be C, F, and G. If you play trumpet, it might be B flat, F, and E flat. And learn the major scales first, and then learn the natural minor scale first, so that we really see the connection about that there are two tonalities within the same key signature. So we're in a minor environment, but it's exactly the same keys as a relative major. C major, A minor, same notes. Then, and only then, learn the harmonic minor, but learn it on the 5th scale degree. Put your thumb on the E if you're in A minor, and think about it as a special scale for the 5 chord. I know this is not what's in the method books. I know that you're not going to find this in Hannon. I know that you might think I'm crazy, but I am in the privileged position of being an influencer in the evolution of piano pedagogy, and I'm a big advocate of understanding harmonic minor in the context of the 5 chord. And then after that, you can point out that sometimes melodic minor is an alternate choice. And when those are well underway, and there's been 3 or 4 years using those in an improvised environment, it might be time to explore some of the weirder ones, like the altered scale or the diminished scale. Thank you for the affirmation on that, because yeah, it does push the envelope a little bit. I'm glad that it works for you. Not everybody will like this, you know. Take it with a grain of salt. This is my belief. You can teach the way that you believe. I also teach scales, just as a quick comment, in an unusual way called squared scales. I had the comment once. I said, but that will be unconventional and it would confuse people. Well, I mean, everything was unconventional at one time. You have to move forward, right? We have to think about music in new ways. So let's summarize with this. When improvising in a minor key, here's my big takeaway. I'm going to just read it verbatim, so make sure I say it right. Use notes from the minor family of scales to improvise on almost all the chords. So you might be using Dorian, you might be using minor pentatonic. Mostly you're going to use natural minor. Use that for almost all the chords. And then when you are against a dominant chord, use the family of scales to improvise over those 5 chords or dominant chords. Most predominant would be the harmonic minor and the melodic minor. It takes 2 scales to improvise in a way that fits the chords in most minor key songs. And we just think about switching back and forth in those. And I'm just going to jam a little bit, and I want you to listen if you can hear how that minor key adjusts for the 5 chord. Here's A minor. All white keys. Actually, I'm throwing in some decorative, but there. So I'll stick to white. Here's that harmonic minor. This time, I'm going to throw in a lot more black keys because I like them. Until next time, enjoy your creative music making journey. See you soon. Thanks for dropping by.